Start singing. I promise you I am. So, you might start wondering how you might be able to help. How can you get involved? So to have this be more than just listening, more than just a discussion, how might you be able to help and get involved? So there's some great ways on the screen there that you can help and get involved. There is a card at your table. I encourage you all to pick up this card from your table and to respond. And if you leave it here, then we will respond to you, okay? We really encourage you to take it a further step.
And to help us wrap up this Interfaith event, I'd like to introduce Pastor Robert Lindstrom, who is heavily engaged in conversation over there. But as the pastor of Trinity Lutheran Church, they've been involved with LSSM and some of the refugee families we've resettled. And so I invited him to speak about what that experience has been like for them as a church congregation. So, what's up?
Doug Kinsey just reminded me that Father John's preaching, so I'm not allowed to close our time. I just have a couple words. We began to revive congregational involvement in refugee resettlement just a couple of years ago, sitting in a smaller version of this, where we sat at tables with refugees. I sat with Mon Mon from Myanmar, Burmese refugee, and she told her story. And people at our table, who were all from our congregation, said we have to do something. And as we began to light that fire, our congregation began to be committed to working with new Burmese refugee families coming in, meeting with the airport, helping them in those first 3 months and then beyond, and getting established. Since that time, we've got a couple of Congolese families that have come among our congregation as new members, and we're living in the beauty of that new diversity and that new gift. I saw a poster recently, and it said, how do you get along with other religions? And it said in the 3 lines of the poster, eat together, pray together, hold each other as babies. And in the refugee investment that we have now taken on, we've begun to hold each other's babies. We eat together, we pray together, and we're growing. And I just, from the perspective of just being a parish pastor, I lift that up. I commend it to all of our Grand Rapids area community. The opportunity for us to be communities that are welcoming, that are taking seriously what it means in a Christian context to be the hands and feet of Jesus. We can do that. So let us eat together and pray together and hold each other's babies. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. I'm not going to preach because I have notes.
Thanks for your time.
I'll get back. I was listening this evening as we were going through all of this situation about how we treat people who are other. And I heard it was very difficult. How many times did we hear that tonight? It was very difficult. It was very difficult. It was very difficult. I'm very proud of our community in the cathedral, where we do have several people who have come from Rwanda and are now a part of our community. I'm very proud of the people who make that possible. People who are volunteers and who go out and do the things that need to be done to assist these people. I've been at the airport and greeted folk coming in. It's something that you learn to live with and you learn to have as part of your life. I also heard, I am just born new. Yes. What a wonderful thing. Huh? I am just born new. What a gift she is to us and us to her, obviously. If this is heaven, this is the United States. Not cool or what? And we have, what we need is freedom. And what we have here in the United States is exactly that. And this is a land of dreams. I was one time, when I worked as the priest director for Catholic Relief Services, who does a great deal, by the way, of these refugee settlements and dealing with refugees overseas. I was taking a bunch of seminarians, those are young men who were studying for the priesthood, over to Ghana or one of the African countries. And I thought, how am I going to help them understand what it means to be in a situation like this? So I said, what would you do if this kind of old man fell down in the street, kind of maybe broke his leg, you could see a bone sticking out? What would you do? And and I'm kidding you not, one of the seminarians said, well, the first thing I would do is make sure that everything was safe medically, that I wouldn't be doing anything to harm the person. The other one said, first thing I would do is make sure that I had the proper insurances to cover, whatever might go down. I thought it was a perfectly normal question to ask, that somebody would say, well, I'll go over and help them. Why? Because they're human. That's why. That's why we help people, because they're just like us. They are human beings. We finally got around to that point. And I did take all of them to Africa, including the two who, by the way, who are now probably ordained, but at the time, before they joined the seminary, were both lawyers. I thought that was So what we all share together is one common thing. One thing is very common to every single one of us, and that is that we are human. That is our nature. We are not God. We are not dogs or horses. We are all human beings. And what separates us from the animals is intelligence, the ability to reason. But sometimes, because we are human, we don't behave as we should in our best moments. I found this I was reminded of this by a deeply theological magazine. You know it as Time. But they reminded me that there's a universal and common teaching across various religions. And if there is one, it's probably what we call the golden rule. Treat others as you want to be treated yourself. This tenet is expressed in Christianity, Confucianism, Buddhism, Hinduism, Judaism, Taoism, and Zoroastrianism, to name a few. The Jewish Talmud says, for example, what is hateful to you, do not do to your fellow man. This is the entire law. All the rest is commentary. The Hindu Mahabharata declares, this is the sum of duty. Do not unto others what you would not have them do unto you. And from the Islamic Sunnah, no one of you is a believer until he desires for his brother that which he desires for himself. In our secular world, we call this empathy. It's about understanding where the other person is coming from, and even more important, treating their concerns the way you would your own. Now, Here I'm going to dig into a bit of Catholic social teaching, because I think regardless of most of our faiths or the differences in them, we all have high regard for that teaching. This Catholic social teaching appeals very often to an understanding of the common good to explain the role of society and the state. So we are all individuals, but we work for the common good. That's what we did today by voting. We worked for the common good, for the good of everybody involved in this state and in our country. When Pope Francis went to Lampedusa shortly after he was made Pope, Lampedusa is a site for refugees in Italy. He didn't go there because he is a good priest, which we all agree I think he is. He didn't just go there because it was a good PR move, although it was. He went there because as a world religious leader, he is infused with the teaching that we are all human. And when we act together, we act on behalf of the common good. St. Thomas Aquinas taught something that he borrowed from Aristotle. The good of the city, the state, the country is more important than the individual. Jacques Maritain, the French philosopher, raised Thomas's theory up a bit when he reasoned that the person is raised by his personhood into the uncreated society of divine persons, and therefore and thereby enters into the kingdom of God and the light of glory. The most recent documents from the popes, like Pacem in Terris from Paul VI, raised up the reality that human beings are part of the political communities within the world community. So the common good is now raised from the level of state to the world. If you study the popes, and we have a sense that we do a lot of that stuff, you will notice that one pope says it's important to be good. The next one says it's important to be good and to have a common good. The next one says it's important to be good and have a common good and understand the role of the individual. And the next one says it's very good to have all of those things and also recognize the importance of the world community. It's a progression of thought. What that really says to us is that the world community must be able to assist when a world problem presents itself. And those coming from other parts of the world are definitely part of the world community. When he spoke to the United States Congress in September, Pope Francis said, "Our world is facing a refugee crisis of a magnitude not seen since the Second World War. We must not be taken aback by their numbers, but rather view them as persons, seeing their faces as we did tonight, and listening to their stories as we have tonight, trying to respond as we can to this situation." From the pilgrims who fled persecution and came to the United States, to the people like the people we saw tonight, who come to our shores fleeing a well-founded fear of persecution because of race, religion, nationality, or membership in a particular social group, or because of their political opinions, these folks are refugees. And it is our task to recognize that we must do to others as we would have them do to us. And ultimately, the common good will be served. More importantly, people like my father, who fled civil war in Ireland, as a face that is important to me. Needless to say, he was my dad. But because, in being my dad, I recognized him as a person just like me. A person human in every way. And I'll tell you the story anytime you want to hear it. We should treat refugees in the same way my dad was treated in all major ways, with the dignity of a human being. And there is no doubt in my mind that the United States is better as a nation because my dad, Dennis Gainey, was treated that way. Amen. Amen. I want to invite all of you to remain at your tables to talk or go to the information tables in the lobby. That's up to you. We don't have a time sequence here. We've got about 20 minutes or so before we execute everybody in the building. No. We do try to close the building around 9 o'clock, so you can keep that in mind. Please do that. We ask you too, you can go to the information tables in the lobby if you'd like to do that. And we would remind you of the card here that says, do unto others. Please fill that out. All you have to do is leave it on your table. We'll collect them and make sure that we are in touch with you. If you can help us in any way to assist the people, the human beings who are refugees coming from around the world. And thank you to all of you for being here, and particularly all of the people who worked so hard, all on the back of this program, particularly the people from Kaufman Institute, our Lutheran brothers and sisters, and from Bethany. Amen. Good night.
I had to